So friends, we continue to keep an eye on the events in Ukraine and Russia as well as in news. And I don't want to jump to conclusions, but it seems that the Russians' counteroffensive is failing. They've managed to achieve partial successes, of course, but today the Ukrainian forces are causing them such significant losses that they can't advance any further. Instead, they are beginning to launch attacks in new directions. And let's start with Kupiansk. Over the past day, the occupiers haven't been able to establish control over Yahidne. As a result, all attacks have ceased and the Ukrainian forces are holding the front line without changes. Information from various maps indicate that Yahidne might be under occupier control, but for now it's likely in a gray zone. And today the Russians are shelling Kiselivka and Persotrovneve. It's here, similarly as preparation for further offensive actions. And as you might have noticed, I'm trying on a new format, a more lively narrative style, and please let me know in the comments how you find it. I would really appreciate your feedback. So, also, in the previous video, I already talked about the attack on Odessa with 15 armed drones and 8 caliber missiles, but I want to show you a few clips from the scene. Let's see that due to the debris falling in the city, several fires broke out. And specifically, the fires erupted in a dormitory and one of the supermarkets. The rockets that were heading towards Odessa had to be intercepted over residential areas, said Hanna Humenyuk. This means that the enemy targeted these areas with the rockets, and indeed, due to the fallen debris from the rockets, a fire broke out in the supermarket. People were injured from the shockwaves and the fallen objects inside the supermarket. And meanwhile, the city administration noted that 7 educational institutions were affected by the night attack. Windows and doors were damaged in kindergartens, schools, and development centers. Additionally, after the night attack, 203 buildings suffered damage, as reported by the city council, and most of the buildings were affected by the shock waves. And in the Svatove region, a similar situation unfolded as the occupiers failed to capture the towns of Nadia and Myasozharivka. Today, they advanced about 4 kilometers towards the river in an attempt to see the towns of Andriivka. However, the Ukrainian forces are actively repelling all these attacks and the front line remains unchanged. And in the Kremina and Siversk area, after a prolonged claim, the occupiers resumed offensive actions, once again targeting Bilohorivka. Yes. Reports also indicate attacks on the towns of Vesele, but the Ukrainian forces are effectively countering these actions without the need for additional reserves, successfully repelling all attacks for now. And in the Bakhmut direction, the situation is complex. Near Klishchiivka and Andriivka, the Russians are deploying their maximum manpower and equipment for their offensive, simultaneously shelling their entire front line and utilizing aviation extensively. The battle is intense and the occupiers are resorting to fierce assaults, but the villages are fiercely defended, indicating their strategic importance for the occupiers. And similarly in Andriivka, there are tough battles for control of the village, but for now the front line remains unchanged. And in the Avdiivka direction, the occupiers have escalated their pressure on Avdiivka today, increasing the number of shelling incidents and conducting assaults on the outskirts of the city. However, their attempts to penetrate further have been unsuccessful, and the situation is under control, with the Ukrainian forces successfully repelling all attacks. And further south reports indicate shelling, but the offensive actions in the Mariinka have ceased. And here is a video showing a Ukrainian drone from the 79th Brigade of the Ukrainian forces eliminating a Russian UR-77 meteorite launcher in the Mariinka area. Let's take a look at how beautiful it's burning. And perhaps the occupiers are once again regrouping, as their attacks are not yielding success and only result in resource losses. And this is a significant achievement for the Ukrainian armed forces, I think. And in the Vuhledar direction, today the occupiers decided to once again try to return to Staromayorsk. But they didn't come up with anything smarter than attempting to bypass the village through the fields. In doing so, they are conducting a heavy barrage on the populated area, and overall the struggles of the Russians continue. They make advances, but the success remains on the side of the Ukrainian armed forces. And the occupiers have now announced that they had to leave Urozhaine. And currently the goal of the Ukrainian forces is to advance to Staromlynivka. The work is ongoing. So, and in the Zaporizhia direction, let's move to the Zaporizhia direction. And in the Zaporizhia direction, the occupiers are still attempting to return to the Robotyne area through the fields. There is a large territory marked in the gray zone, and the Russians continue to mobilize new reserves and try to regain their lost positions. So it's critically important to completely destroy the Crimean Bridge. So this should have been done long ago. Even after the first strike, it was necessary to finish it off, to bring it down entirely. But apparently the plans of the general staff are different, so we have what we have. And Russia is also increasing its drone production pace, as it fears that sanctions against Iran could help the supplies of unmanned aerial vehicles to Russian territory. And as said Natalia Humenyuk, we still hope that the international community will control this matter. We are preparing for air attacks from the Russians, understanding that the enemy will continue to exert pressure on us from the air. And okay, now let's go for some good news. So, the Pentagon has released a list of weaponry in the new $200 million aid package for Ukraine. So it includes missiles for Patriot and HIMARS systems, 105mm and 155mm artillery projectiles, 120mm tank shells, Javelin and Tau anti-tank missile system, 37 tactical tractors, 58 water carriers, over 12 million rounds of ammunition and grenades and demining equipment, obstacle clearing projectiles, and spare parts for equipment. And it's cool. But meanwhile, in the Krasnodar Krai, another Russian military aircraft had a negative takeoff. So this time a training Il-39 aircraft crashed from the Training Aviation Regiment. The Russian Minister of Defense claimed that the plane crashed within the aerodrome perimeter. So, and these are our news for today. Thank you for watching. Please write in comments how do you like this format. So, have a good night or day. Bye bye.